Cat Black here. Black fatigue is exhausted. You know, the trending critique of black people is that black fatigue is sweeping the land. Now, this is, take your pick, a conservative or a cluxer or a white nationalist or a self-hating black attack upon black people whose behavior, if you happen to be an old school quiet type like myself, is irritating, but is not indicative of the mass of black people. It's interesting that the two most famous black men and arguably the most famous Americans are a black man with a PhD and a self-taught black man who debated at Oxford University. I speak of none other than beloved ancestors Dr. King and Malcolm X. But despite their erudition and eternal excellence, black people are not associated with them to the extent that we are associated with Shanae from the Martin Lawrence show, the caricature of the ghettoized black woman he portrayed, or the apocryphal Ray Ray, Hambone, and Skillet. Rootless, sometimes ruthless, urban black men used to invoke dereliction of duty to the community. In these moments, I also hasten to add that I am not a conservative professional critic of blackness. I do have a critique, but the critique comes not to serve an outside ideology, but to serve the common unity or community from which I come. And let's be very candid. Our standards were higher when the distance between ourselves and others was longer. The more that we have integrated into a society that we don't control, the more negative behavior has been promoted to keep us from maximizing any type of stake in this one-sided integration. And that's not a critique of my beloved civil rights ancestors who did the best they could with an evil system to wrest some type of forward motion for our people. Not at all. It's just a recognition that even when we used to dress up in our Sunday best, for those of us who were Christians, or put on your suit and bow tie for those of us who were Muslims, conduct yourselves well above the highest standard of American behavior, you still got the HE double hockey sticks, as they say, beaten out of you, or shot, or lynched, or arrested for protesting for the right to vote or use public accommodations, or in your bow tie for selling Muhammad Speaks or telling other black people that you're not the devil, but that guy giving you hell is. Pardon my French. You know, there's always been a negative stigma upon us, and it's always centered upon either fictional or actual cases from a percentage of us engaged in negative behavior. When Dylann Roof went and murdered 9 black people that he demonically prayed with and then preyed upon, all white men were not smeared with his evil. When Peyton Gendron stormed into a Buffalo, New York supermarket and opened fire on every black face he could, we didn't somehow arrive at all white men are like this. Therefore, we should arm ourselves and or be alert against them. But one Negro commits an anti-community act, and now it's the fault of all black men. If one black woman is twerking in a restaurant, something, of course, I would consider unacceptable under any circumstances, all black women are thus smeared. So I always try to tell people, your concern about negative trends in the black community have to be addressed separate from the reality of we're considered negatively no matter what we do by the outer society. So as we engage in community building, in community resurrection, fighting for our safety, fighting for our dignity, fighting for our autonomy, that has to be for our own benefit. It can't be, as I accuse those on the right, of trying to fit in better with the conservative end of the big house. It also can't be for those of us on the left to be better fronts or better tools for a white Politburo that needs black people to be as ignorant and as enrolled in private programs and the public criminal justice system to benefit an outside ideology. Two definitions of black people which are absolutely toxic, promoted by two sides of the same bipartisan plantation. We must improve ourselves for our own benefit, not to try to impress people who either think we're animals or lower evolved humans. Take your pick. Remove that from the equation. Black fatigue is exhausted because it comes from the same mythological obsession with black faults that preceded the phrase by many generations. All black people are not messed up, and don't fall for that narrative in any way, shape, or form. You help your enemies when you do so. Peace.